Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome to the August 2020 edition of our monthly movie reviews. This is the series where we take all the new movies we saw over the course of a month and we review them in order from worst to best. As always, links to the trailers of the movies we're reviewing will be in the description below, and now it's time for the movies.
As you all know, for some time now, I've been looking forward to hiring a
new Batman movie to love.
Not just any
New Batman movie.
With eminent qualification. May I have candidate number 1, please?
What are you? I'm Batman.
Out. All right. May I have the next candidate, please?
Save Martha!
Get out! Get out! Get the hell out of here! May I please have a more qualified candidate?
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight.
Well, I would suggest then that you're eminently qualified to be my
Batman.
Unless there might be somebody else who might want to apply for the job.
Cole, sit down, Cole. Sit down, Cole.
Unless there might be some
Batman movie.
would-be who wants to give me an offer I can't refuse.
From your secret friend, let's play a game, just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
Why is he writing to you? If you are justice, please do not lie.
I'm vengeance.
You'll see.
You're hired.
Robert Pattinson.
Jessica! Why? Jessica Chastain, please stop doing these movies. She hasn't been in a good movie since 2014. I'm absolutely sick of this. The early 2010s were great, okay? Bam, The Debt, Tree of Life, Take Shelter, Lawless, Zero Dark 30, The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, and Interstellar. A great lineup of movies, right? Amazing. All in a 4-year time span. And then for some reason, for the last 5 years, one of my favorite actresses has been in films that are either supremely mediocre, or in this case, one of the worst displays of filmmaking I've ever seen. The characterization is derivative. The lighting is a 2-pack of ass. The green screen composites are embarrassing. Like, we've mastered the ability to key in backgrounds at this point, and for some reason in this movie, whenever the camera moves, the backgrounds become warped. Why is that a thing? And the worst part of this film is the action, and by proxy, the cinematography and the editing. Almost every action scene has a moment where they zoom in post on a punch or a kick, and yeah, this movie made me want to die. I had a good laugh a couple of times, unintentionally of course, but yeah, this was another 90-minute sacrifice of my life force for you, our small audience. You're welcome. And I'm giving Ava a 2 out of 10.
The Lost Husband, more like The Lost My Mind. This movie is so freaking long and boring. The absolute worst thing I saw this month. It is so repetitive and emotionally bland. The characters are so one note. It was as if they got inspiration from the worst drama series you could ever think of. Oh my goodness. This movie is boring. I really wanted to go to bed. Like 35 minutes into the movie, my girlfriend and I were not feeling it, but we had to keep going because it's a film. But it's okay. We cuddled and had a good time. I would give that a 10 out of 10, but I'm giving The Lost Husband a 1 out of 10. Also, they never really like found a husband or whatnot. The husband dies. That's it.
The Lost Husband is a Netflix original film with a very misleading title. Who is the lost husband exactly? Is it Josh Duhamel? He didn't seem lost. Is it the main character's dead husband? Is he lost? Is he lost in the afterlife? Anyway, I saw this film because my mom kept asking me to watch it, and I'll tell you what, this is exactly why I'm the one who recommends movies, okay? As long as the stakes in this movie aren't insanely high and no one has to cry or anything, the performances are passable, the cinematography is fine until the director and the DP decide they want to do tracking shots that look like they're on Steadicam. I say look like because these are the bumpiest tracking shots I've seen since Wasp Network. Also, at the end, there is a blowout between two characters and the camera crosses the line for no reason, and both characters look like they're looking in the same direction, and it's like when you're watching a TikTok or a Vine and the kid doing the skit all by himself doesn't know how to do screen direction, so it's hard to tell which character he's playing at any given moment. Yep, that happened in a multi-million-dollar film. Also, this film has the worst audio editing I've heard all year. The dialogue clips so much, and it's so noticeable. That happened at least every other scene, but it happened every single time dialogue overlapped. Like the production team had never heard of fading or keying the audio in the first and final frame of each piece of dialogue. Like, it's time consuming, but it's very simple. I don't understand what the issue was. I know this sounds like I'm nitpicking, but I should be focused on the story and characters and not the audio popping in my ears. It's a large immersion issue. The Lost Husband is a very predictable, not compelling, and poorly produced experience, and I'm giving The Lost Husband a 3 out of 10. The Tax Collector is the latest film by David Ayer, whose filmography is just an extension of his Latinx boner. Hey man, I spent 2 weeks in the south side of LA, okay? That's my life now. He's known for writing Training Day and directing Harsh Times, End of Watch, Fury, Suicide Squad, and Bright. But The Tax Collector has unlocked another tier of possibilities of bad filmmaking for David Ayer. The performances, minus George Lopez, surprisingly, are all really unconvincing and in some cases, laughable. Shia LaBeouf's accent work is very inconsistent. He kept switching from being a cholo to his regular voice, and it was very strange. The cinematography and
production design
in tandem gave off a very low production quality, and you can feel it as soon as the film starts. The narrative feels half-baked, underdeveloped, and poorly paced. The gunfights were really cheap looking. It's just a bad movie. I don't know what to tell you. There was a slow motion part that was kind of cool for a second, and there were some moments that were so bad that they were good, which is the only consistent source of joy I found throughout this film. The Tax Collector taxed 90 minutes out of me, and I wish I had that time back, and I'm giving The Tax Collector a 2 out of 10.
The War with Grandpa is supposed to be released in theaters in October, but through unnamed means I saw the film and it was predictably terrible. This movie has so many talented actors and they are all just the worst. There's this one gag that they did twice that made me kinda laugh, so I'm giving it a 2 out of 10, just because of this gag. Don't see this though, there are other things you can be watching.
War with Grandpa is a real movie that stars Robert De Niro, Uma Thurman, Christopher Walken, and Cheech Marin, and I don't know why. This is such a boomer movie. I hate it. Why are these good actors so hell-bent on staining their resumes? I don't understand. Go ahead and do comedy, but you can pick a better movie. Okay, I'm done. I'm giving War with Grandpa a 3 out of 10.
Oh look, an animated DC film with below average animation. I'm not sure what they were trying to do with this movie, but high-key it was just annoying. I really did not enjoy this. I thought some of the fight scenes were okay, but it didn't really have the kind of depth I would imagine from a movie about the character of Deathstroke. I felt more emotionally invested to him when he was in the Teen Titans TV show. I know it's a TV show, but still. Quick TBT, remember when they called him Slade in that show because Cartoon Network couldn't call him Deathstroke because the kids would be like, what? That show was good. This movie is not. 3 out of 10.
The Binge is another film where two dorks are like, wow, we've lived out our entire high school lives doing nothing special, so let's go to this party so we can go out with a bang, and also there's a hot girl there, like we've never seen that before. This film is a mix of Superbad and The Purge, where the rules of The Purge are just about drugs and alcohol instead of all crime. The camera is there, the performances are there. I saw a critic say that this is Vince Vaughn's worst performance, but obviously that person has not seen Hacksaw Ridge. The plot goes exactly how you think it's going to go. There is no effort to hide its setup at all. There's a musical section that is so vanilla it was kind of insulting, but the hardest barrier that was hardest for me to get past was that these teenage kids apparently have the greatest tolerance and endurance in the world. Like, as soon as they started drinking for the first time ever in their entire life, the movie became implausible. Like, sure, there's some wacky things that happen in the film, and those things are also dumb, but like, their first drinking session would have had them puking, immobile, and asleep within an hour or two. They down so many shots of whiskey and mix all different types of alcohol. It's just... like, if the presentation matched how ridiculous and implausible the things that happen in this film are, then I would be fine-ish with it, but it's presented like a normal movie, and I can't. This movie's bad. There's nothing for you to chew on comically, story-wise, or visually. It's just lazy, and there are better drug movies than this, and I'm giving The Binge a 3 out of 10.
Project Power is a movie I high-key will never watch again, probably. This movie presents a very interesting take on developing superpowers, but it is executed in such a loud, annoying, and
predictable
way that you can't help but want to shut it off midway through. There's this one scene where the main girl raps in front of her teacher, and the payoff to that scene was super frustrating. I really didn't know what to make of it. The effects are fine, the performances are kind of like whatever. Watching Joseph Gordon-Levitt wear a New Orleans Saints jersey the entire film was kind of funny, but besides being kind of interesting, this movie is really not the best.
Project Power is a 4 out of 10.
Project Power is the latest action film from Netflix, and it's bad. I don't know what I was expecting, but this movie is really stupid. Some of the visual effects looked pretty good, like the Human Torch sequence, for example, but that isn't enough to save a movie. This movie irked me mostly on a narrative level. Some of the scenes are just too long, like they made their point already, and then they kept going because they thought that their point wasn't being made. The story itself felt predictable and underdeveloped and half-baked. You know, all the things I usually say about most of the bad movies I review. But the story element that irks me the most is that, like the old guard from last month, science is the bad guy for some reason, and I'm going to keep complaining about this until it's changed. It's really stupid. It would be fine if you were making a cautionary tale about big tech chuds like Elon Musk or something, but it's important when you're tightrope walking on the side of politically irresponsible to have a counterpoint to the thing you're criticizing. And I'm giving Project Poo Poo a 3 out of 10. Tesla is a biopic about the famous inventor Nikola Tesla, and I found this film to be deeply uninteresting. Sure, the next films I'm going to review I would say are worse, quote-unquote, objectively, but this film does the one thing you don't want to do, and that's bore people. It goes for alternative ways of telling a biopic to try to avoid the pitfalls of how most mediocre biopics go down, which is admirable, but the problem is that it doesn't work. Some of the rear screen projection type things that they go for don't look that good, and most importantly, I don't know what Tesla wants in this narrative. There's no real conflict. Sure, he has adversaries in this film, but it's not tied to other events in the story, really. Ethan Hawke's vocal work is very inconsistent. Kyle MacLachlan as Edison is the best part of the film, but like I said, the rest of the film is very uninteresting, and I'm giving Tesla a 4 out of 10.
Work It is unapologetically dumb, but I can't help it. I had a good time, although I really don't remember anything from it at all. Apparently one of the actresses dated David Dobrik or something. That's what I took away from this movie. Because of that, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. I remember it being kind of fun, but I will probably never watch it again.
Work It is a movie. And I'm giving Work It a 4 out of 10.
Oh wow, an okay looking animated DC film? Superman Man of Tomorrow is a movie that is high-key fine, thank goodness. The story is kind of fun and light, and everything Superman should be. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut, am I right? Anyway, yeah, this was on in the background when I was editing, and I actually got distracted because I wanted to see how things would play out. Not sure if it's the best DC animated film in a while, but it sure is the most fun. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 because the final battle was against a kaiju, and I thought that was kind of stupid. Stupid, but fun.
The One and Only Ivan is a movie based on the true story of Ivan the gorilla who was part of a circus in a shopping mall. The only thing I think this movie does incredibly well is the visual effects. I don't know why the visual effects in this movie are better than the visual effects in the Dumbo remake, but that's how it goes, I guess. Sam Rockwell is cast as the titular Ivan, and his voice does not match well with a gorilla that's supposed to be a real gorilla, but you know what? I don't know how to really justify that. It was just bad casting. That's all I can really say. Since the film takes place mostly in Ivan's cage, from both a plot and visual standpoint, the film becomes extremely tedious, which I guess is the point, but I've seen plenty of one location films that don't feel that way. Bryan Cranston is in the film and he does the best he can. The child actor in this film is awful, and overall it's just very underwhelming. There's a point in the film where Bryan Cranston makes a realization, but the little kid has to explain it to him, and I think it would have been more powerful and a better usage of Bryan Cranston's acting abilities if he was allowed to come to that conclusion himself. I would not recommend that you spend your time on this film. There are better films that expose why captivity is bad and why circuses are bad, and I'm giving The One and Only Ivan a 4 out of 10.
I don't get it. If animals can look great in the live action The Lion King, why can't they look great everywhere from now on? Was the budget for The Lion King so aggressively large or something? Oh yeah, it was. Okay, well in The One and Only Ivan, the animals look like CGI creatures, so we really don't get a connection from any of them, even if they act sad and stuff. A kid could watch it and cry, but watching it as a 46-year-old, I really just don't understand anything about it. In the end, Ivan's owner, Bryan Cranston, lost his main source of income. His life is ruined. The janitor guy also can now not support his daughter because he has lost his job. 5 out of 10.
Bill and Ted Face the Music is the third film in the Bill and Ted trilogy about two of the most bodacious, excellent dudes who have ever walked the earth, Bill and Ted. The first film is aptly titled Excellent Adventure because it's an adventure and it's excellent. Okay, seriously, the first film is okay. I think Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter give pretty awesome performances. I never thought that a third act consisting of a school presentation would be so dynamic, but it's true in this film and I like it a lot. Bogus Journey is aptly titled Bogus Journey, and I don't really care to see it again. I feel like that's the general consensus on Bogus Journey. There were others who are probably like, I actually kind of like Bogus Journey because of its Seventh Seal references, but I don't care. And Face the Music, I found to be pretty unnecessary. The problem I have with this film is the same that I have with Bogus Journey, is that it continually goes out of its way to justify its own existence, and the whole thing about Excellent Adventure wasn't that they had to do a certain thing together to change the world, it was that they just had to be together. That was the whole conflict. They were doing something so they could be together. Samara Weaving and Bridget Lundy Payne as the children of Bill and Ted were without a doubt the best part of the film. I thought it was pretty odd that they recasted the wives of Bill and Ted, hashtag sexism, and the over-reliance on CGI was not welcomed at all. I think it would have added much more to the film if they kept the cheap-looking sets from the first film and just went with it, but oh well. And I'm giving Bill and Ted 3 a 5 out of 10.
Bill and Ted Face the Music is the most unnecessary threequel I have ever seen. This movie doesn't even pander to anyone for real. Is it for history buffs? No, because they get information wrong. Is it music lovers? No, because the music is bad. Is it Kid Cudi stans? No, because he can't act. Every time I see Kid Cudi in a film, I always feel like the movie must suck. Kid Cudi is in a lot of stinkers. Shout out to Day and Night being his best song though.
Wrong!
Anyway, this movie has some funny gags, but its unclear narrative and confusing time travel elements make it high-key the worst of the trilogy. The use of green screen in this movie is disgusting and should never have even been considered. The end happens so fast and it is so weird. They are trying to make the best song ever to unite the universe or some shit, and the song they make is not even good. I never want to watch this movie again, but I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
I Used to Go Here is a movie about a woman who is releasing her first book and returns to her alma mater in hopes of reliving the past, and it was okay. The film all around is pretty solid. It's a very Sundance, independent, character-based film that is very digestible and not a terrible usage of your time. It's entertaining, and I think it's a nice reminder that if you find yourself thinking too much about what the past was like, you're probably not valuing what you can do with your future as much as you should. And I'm giving I Used to Go Here a 6 out of 10.
An American Pickle started off really funny and really engaging, but in the middle of it, I felt it start to drag a little. Casual moviegoers, or in this case, casual movie watchers, will honestly like the beginning, but then find themselves bored when they get to the middle. Seth Rogen really did his best, but I miss him in more crackhead films. Where's Sausage Party 2 at? The first one was insane. Anyway, An American Pickle is a 6 out of 10.
American Pickle is an HBO exclusive film starring Seth Rogen and Seth Rogen. Let me tell you what, I really enjoyed the beginning of the film where Seth Rogen is in the early 1900s. I loved the presentation, I loved the style, I loved everything about it. It was great. I enjoyed it so much that once we fast forwarded 100 years in the future to the present, the film gradually became less and less interesting to me. It started off so strong that by the end of it, it felt like I was eating a generic, stale cupcake with the best tasting frosting of all time on top. The way they were able to make Seth Rogen play both parts in the same shots were pretty impressive, but like I said, by the end of it, I really didn't care anymore, and I'm giving American Pickle a 6 out of 10. You Cannot Kill David Arquette is an insane documentary about David Arquette, famous actor that you probably know from the Scream franchise, and he's the brother of actors Patricia Arquette and Rosanna Arquette. This is a documentary about his quest to be accepted by the wrestling community and its fan base. He's most known to wrestling fans as the actor who became WCW World Heavyweight Champion while doing press for his wrestling comedy Ready to Rumble. Yes, they really put the World Heavyweight title on an actor, and it tanked David Arquette's career, and it sealed the fate of WCW, who later got bought out by WWE a year later. The fans in this film and on the internet in real life give him a lot of shit for this, and they say that he ruined wrestling. And I'm just gonna throw out a little hot take here, but as a fan, I also think that this was an awful decision, but it wasn't his fault. For those of you who don't know, at the time, wrestling was at its peak in popularity, and that's because Ted Turner, who owned WCW, was trying to put Vince McMahon out of business, who owned WWE, at the time called WWF. And that started a ratings war in the 90s that ended in 2001. WCW was winning the ratings war for a couple of years, and then in 1996, WWF started to get a little bit more edgy, and then in 1997, they branded their edgy and coolness as the Attitude Era, and because of that, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock got super fucking popular, and WWF ended up winning the ratings war. And by the time that David Arquette won the heavyweight title in WCW in 2000, WCW had done so many questionable creative decisions to gain boosts in ratings that they pretty much sealed their fate as a company by the time that this happened. So this David Arquette business was not an isolated event, which is sort of what I dislike about this doc. They don't really show the context, but as you see in the documentary, David Arquette couldn't really think about the situation from an objective point of view, and he took the backlash to heart. And as a man in his mid-40s, he decided to go on a multi-year, dangerous quest for acceptance, which aesthetically, I think most of you cannot relate to because I'm assuming I'm the only wrestling fan here, but I can definitely say that everyone can relate to a story about someone trying to redeem themselves and gain approval from others, because that's what everyone does every single day. This documentary, like I said, is pretty insane. There's a lot of dangerous things I don't want to spoil for you, but I think you should check it out. It has a pretty cringy soundtrack at times, but it kind of fits with David Arquette pretty well, and I'm giving You Cannot Kill David Arquette a 7 out of 10. Feels Good Man is a documentary about the meme Pepe the Frog. It covers the time between its inception in the mid-2000s to where it is now, and it's a wild ride. While we follow the progression of this meme, we also follow its creator, who has basically watched his creation be taken away from him and morphed into something that he never intended. The film has some pretty neat animated sequences, the music is great, and I think the thing that this film achieves the most is that it's very accessible to normies, like your parents, or you if you're an older person watching this video for some reason. If you don't really understand meme culture, or you have parents that don't really get it, I would highly recommend that you watch this with them so you can introduce them to how the internet actually works, and you can get another perspective of the culture war that was happening during the 2016 election, because everything has to do with the 2016 election. What a shit show. Overall, I think Feels Good Man is a pretty good movie. It'll make you feels good, man, and you should all check it out, and I'm giving Feels Good Man a 7 out of 10. Chemical Hearts is an adaptation of the book Our Chemical Hearts, and I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. The only thing I didn't like was that the friends of the main character are just kind of there and they don't do anything in the story, and there was a huge moment toward the end that felt a little over the top even for a melodrama, but that's it. Lily Reinhart from Riverdale and August Abrams from Euphoria give really good performances. It's a teen drama based on a book, so there are a lot of tropes that you're familiar with, like certain social dynamics and plot points, but I think this film does a lot with those tropes, and it felt like the filmmakers actually cared about what they were making, and you can feel that in the shots and how the scenes are constructed. It reminds me of The Half of It in that way, but this film is much darker. I think melodramas are super hard to nail down because we live in a postmodern society, so getting people on board with an earnest film that wears its heart on its sleeve can be difficult, but I think this film does it well. I was incredibly invested throughout. I cried a bunch. After the film, I felt raw and emotional, even though I don't really relate to this a whole lot as someone who is approaching their mid-20s. I think younger people will eat this movie up as they're living through a lot of this, and they can't really see the forest through the trees when it comes to their emotional trauma. I think film at its best has the ability to heal, and I think this movie can do that for some people. It didn't do it for me, but I still found it to be an emotional experience, even though its skeleton is very familiar. And I'm giving Chemical Hearts a 7 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you agree or disagree, tell us in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends. Do all the things. The Matrix video is coming soon, I swear. The links to the trailers of the movies we reviewed are in the description below. Also, the New York Film Festival is happening, so expect those videos to be coming out within the next couple of weeks, because I start going to the New York Film Festival later this month. And yeah, most of it's virtual, but some of them are drive-ins. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'll show you some footage. It'll be cool. All right, bye-bye.